Hey, everybody. Happy Tuesday. I am your host, CWall, coming to bring you another edition of Coaching from the Couch, the Washington football team training camp update. As you all can see, I'm not here by myself this evening. Yay! I have a guest with me. I have Washington football team reporter Sam Fortier from the Washington Post here. He is super amazing. Even double more amazing because he's doing this and he's hanging out with us on a Tuesday night. And I know he's been in Ashburn at camp all day, all month, like last 2 months, your whole life. Anyway, hey, Sam.
Hey, CWall, I really appreciate you having me. It does feel like it's been a couple lifetimes in Ashburn, but there are certainly worse ways to spend the day than being out there trying to figure out what's going to happen with this football team coming off. Obviously, a really exciting year, and I think a year that could be just as exciting this year. So I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I was like, you know what? Sam and I, just for some background context, Sam and I met at the golf tournament. And I was like, you know what? It is so nice to finally meet you in real life. These are real people that really exist. And he's amazing. So make sure you all are following him on all social media. Plug for Sam 48 because I have to do that.
Thank you.
So I've already given Sam some details about a contest that we have going on right now, you guys. So listen, Sam is going to be he's going to be dropping some gems, you guys. So we have the Fan 53 contest going on. You need to submit your best guess at who will make the Washington football team. You have until the end of preseason game 3 to submit your guesses. So you might want to have your notepad out and make sure you're taking all the notes, because if you miss it, you can go back and watch the show later, but if you miss it, you missed it. It's not because Sam didn't tell you. Anyway, so Sam, let's jump in. We know we have I've already given Sam the details that I have the best Washington football fans in the area watching this show. So you guys make sure you are sharing and liking and loving the show so everyone can hear all the great information that Sam has to share. So Sam, let's start out first with overall reactions to training camp. How do you think training camp is going, and who so far has really impressed you this training camp?
Right. So I think the first thing I should say is that this training camp, I think, is going pretty well, especially when you compare it to last year, which was my first year, and kind of a COVID protocol year was not I think the way that Ron Rivera wanted to start out. It's funny actually, because so last year's my first year, but one of my coworkers, Les Carpenter, was actually in Tokyo for the Olympics, and he came back the other day, and he used to cover this team when Jay Gruden was the coach. And we were standing together watching. He was like, "Man, these practices are crisp. Like, these practices are professional." And he was like, everybody's looking at the field and things are moving in a rapid pace. So something that I maybe take for granted or did not realize how much of a shift that was is how efficient and maybe militaristic these practices are under Ron Rivera. So I think that's, kind of one of my takeaways from camp is that I think that Ron's going to have this team, in a solid fundamental shape. And then who stood out to me? It's a good question. I think that Jamin Davis, obviously the first round pick, the linebacker, he might not have his footing in games, but I think he's been getting better in practice. His progress has been impressive. Jarrett Patterson, obviously the undrafted free agent who everybody knows about. But here's somebody that I think you might want to consider for your 53 that maybe people haven't talked about as much, is 7th round pick out of BYU, Dax Milne. Dax Milne. He has really impressed. He might be this year's version of Cam Curl. Ron Rivera has talked about, he's a lot more polished than he would have expected a guy who came out as a junior to be. He caught a lot of balls at BYU. He was actually the top target for number 2 pick Zach Wilson, the quarterback of the Jets. That was kind of the tandem in college. But I think he actually has a strong chance to make this 53 even initially out of camp. And one more I'll say is Sam Cosmi, the right tackle. He's been really impressive, even replacing Morgan Moses so far.
You know what? That's awesome. That was great information. And you mentioned a name that I know I have been just like, wow, I was worried about this position, and that's Sam Cosmi. So I know some folks are still like, What's up with this O-line? Is this O-line going to hold up against the best defenses in the NFL? So what's your take right now on the offensive line?
Right. So I think when you cut a guy like Morgan Moses, who's played, every snap for 5 years, you got to say, okay, or he started every game for 5 years. What's the path forward? And they really did that for two reasons. One of the reasons was Sam Cosmi really impressed them even in OTA's rookie minicamp, which you would like to say, like, they didn't even have pads on. How can an offensive lineman be so impressive just without even pads? But offensive line coach John Matsko, Ron Rivera, they were so impressed by his athleticism, what they saw from him, that they said, okay, this guy's going to start sooner rather than later. And maybe that's a situation where we can start Cornelius Lucas and then, slide him in. So I think that's why they made the decision to move on from Morgan Moses. But also, when they get to camp and Cornelius Lucas goes on COVID list, Sam Cosmi starts starting right away, and he's really responded. The thing that's impressive to me isn't just his talent or his athleticism, though that is impressive. It's he was getting rocked by Chase Young and Montez Sweat that first week, and his rapid progression, his rapid growth has impressed not just me, but I was having a conversation with Wes Schweitzer, one of the swing guard probably on this line, and he said, Sam Cosmi's playing his ass off right now. I mean, I don't know if I can say that on your show, but
you can.
Okay.
Now listen, Sam, my mom does watch the show, but it's okay. She's just say hey to mom, but she's all right.
Mom. I'm sorry. But so I think he's going to be that anchor at right tackle. And I think, to go left to right, we're going to go Charles Leno, I think, is locked in as the starter. Mm-hmm. Eric Flowers started behind Wes Schweitzer at left guard, but has come on really strong. And I think you'll see Eric Flowers stick at left guard. Chase Roulier, obviously they gave a big deal to last offseason, 4 years, $40 million. He'll be the center. And then Brandon Sheriff, right guard. That's kind of your setup for the offensive line. And it's important because this team used 5-man protection, leaving the 5 offensive linemen by themselves, the 4th most last year. So this line is going to have to really stand up. And I think they're going to be, if not as good as they were last year, a little bit better. I think that the athleticism that they added, the strength, I think that sets you up well against a schedule that really does have some dominant pass rushers in it. So I've rambled for long enough. I just think that I think that they're going to be solid this season, maybe a little bit better than last year.
No, that's exciting because I know that is always kind of a position group that the fan base and others are worried about and concerned about who's protecting the quarterback, right? And how are they going to hold up? The team has battled injuries in the past, so definitely looking forward to that line being solid. They had a good year last year, right? They definitely had a solid year, so looking forward to more of that this year. Now, I just mentioned the quarterback, so I have to ask this question. After 2 preseason games, feeling a little shaky with the first team offense, right? The other day, I believe Nikki Javala, she asked the question, I'm not sure about week 1 starters. I could have gotten that wrong, but yeah, it was Nikki about week 1 starters. And Ron, in what I call him in true Ron Rivera fashion, is like, hey, listen, I don't have to answer this question right now. And and I'm like, is that just Ron being Ron, or does he really not know right now? So what's your take on quarterback performance so far after 2 preseason games?
Right. Well, I think the first thing I should say is that Ryan Fitzpatrick will be the starter. That's not a question. Ron used the phrase fait accompli. He called the quarterback decision a fait accompli. And I was like, all right, what is that? He's pulling out some some fancy phrases. And that just means like something that he's decided that he hasn't told people yet. So Ryan Fitzpatrick's the starter. I think we should say that. But how has he performed? I think he's been solid. I think that there were some kind of unexpected hiccups in that second game. The first game, I think he looked really good. That 3rd and 10 back shoulder throw to Logan Thomas down the right sideline, that was really impressive. The post to Terry McLaurin was really impressive. But you saw him miss several throws. There was one on the sideline he just overthrew. There was one with Adam Humphries coming across the middle where they miscommunicated, and that was weird because Adam Humphries and he had spent so much time together. That's why he's here. He trusts him. So, a little bit odd. And we actually asked Ryan Fitzpatrick about this today, why maybe did those mistakes, those hiccups happen? And he was like, that's something that I'm even going through on tape. Is that a mechanical issue? Is that I just overthrew an issue? What is that? And it didn't come down on any particular place. But to me, you have one like pretty solid performance, one rocky performance. So if he ends up playing, which I think he will in this third game, that'll be kind of my barometer of, okay, you had this hiccup. Can you adjust? Kind of like the Sam Cosmi example we were talking about earlier. Can you adjust? I think it's been a little shaky so far, but I think there's reason to believe they can figure this out.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good information. I know, folks are always concerned about, Ryan Fitzpatrick has been in the league for so long, and some games are like perfect and others can be a nightmare. So you just never know what you're going to get. But I'm loving the veteran leadership and the energy that he's bringing for certain. I think that's super awesome. So want to get your take and get some insight on at the running back position. I know it's been noted, and we've all seen it in the preseason games, that Peyton Barber has lost some weight. Now, with that, that's great. And now with that, do you think the weight loss will be a barrier for him in being a short yardage back, or does he still have that strength in being solid at being that short yardage back for the team?
That's a good question. And I think that the lost weight should not prevent him from being as powerful, as explosive as he was last year in that short yardage back role. To me, I think when you start to think that this team has a lot of talent, they're trying to figure out who the 53 are that they're going to keep. To me, it almost seemed like they were wondering, can we get by without Peyton Barber last week? When they gave Antonio Gibson those 3rd and 1, 4th and 1 carries, that to me was not only a test of Antonio Gibson as a short yardage back. It's, hey, can we keep 3 running backs, Antonio, JD, McKissick, and Jarrett Patterson? Can we get by without Peyton Barber? And I think the answer was a pretty solid no, at least so far, because neither of those other guys, JD or Peyton Barber, have the frame to be a power back. So if Peyton makes the 53, which I think he has a solid chance to do right now, then yeah, I think he can be that short yardage back that Washington had him in that role last year. But I think Washington really wants to see more from Antonio Gibson, not only in that role, but even more in pass protection, in kind of the nuances of the running back position. I think there's a lot there that they want to see him develop as well.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That is excellent insight there, Sam. Didn't even consider the fact that, okay, is this a test to see? We know what we got here, but what do we have right here?
Exactly.
So it's all trying to see, the basics and seeing what they got in live game action. So I actually enjoyed the preseason. It's not, I hope you can tell, but I mean, it's maybe not everybody does, but once you figure out what it's for, then it's kind of cool watching it, right? So I have to ask about the tight ends, because I always feel like the tight end position is like the unspoken hero. Like, I feel like all great teams have dynamic tight ends, right? So we have Logan Thomas, and then I feel like there's everybody else. So it's like, who else will emerge as that tight end too? I don't think it's real solid right now. So what do you think?
No, that's a good read on the situation for sure, because to me, I think that second tier is going to be filled by both the 4th round pick out of Boise State, John Bates, and also the veteran Tamark Hemingway. I think you have kind of dual concerns there. You kind of know what Tamark Hemingway is. I think he had maybe 1 catch, 0 catches last year. He had a pretty bad drop, I remember, late in the season. So you kind of know what he is. He's a good blocker, but what could he become? I think you kind of know what he is. John Bates, can he adjust to the NFL game quickly? He does have kind of both those skill sets, the catching and the blocking, but you got to worry about inexperience. So I think those are the next 2 guys. And then the guys after him, I don't think Sammis Reyes, for as much love as the fans give, I don't think he'll be ready to take that, big step. He hadn't played a football game until 2 weeks ago. So, he's making a lot of really good progress, but I don't think you're going to see him on the field at least early in the season. And then, kind of those guys, so the guy after Hemingway and Bates, I think would be Ricky Seals-Jones. I don't think they'll probably keep him on the roster. They might if they go 4 tight ends or 5 tight ends, excuse me. But that would be the next guy. And one other insight that I wanted to give you about Logan Thomas is I think, and Pete Hainer has said, and Ron Rivera has said, and I was kind of skeptical, but throughout camp, I think I've seen that their point was Logan Thomas's stats from last year. I think it was something like 60 catches, 800 yards, 7 touchdowns. It was something in that ballpark. They were like, that is his absolute baseline for this year.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was kind of skeptical. Okay, this guy took a huge leap. Can he take a huge leap again? I don't know if it's huge, but I do think they're going to use him like a top 5 tight end in this league. I think that I was asking Ryan Fitzpatrick today. He said, hey, I trust Logan Thomas implicitly because he's a former quarterback. He sees things like I see it. And I trust him especially in the red zone. And I asked, like, why in the red zone more than anywhere? And he was just like, man, look, I need to have someone that I trust. And for a guy that switched teams as much as he does, that's a valuable commodity. And he was like, every time Logan and I talk about a read, we see it the same way. I know where he's going to be. And so to me, I don't know if people want to take this into account for he's making the 53, but if you want to take into account for your fantasy football teams, I really think that Logan Thomas is primed for an even greater year than he had last year. And so that tight end room, they might only have a solid 1, but I think that 1 is going to be pretty good.
I think so too. I'm pretty stoked about that 1. Pretty stoked about that 1 for certain. Now I see a question coming through, and it was a question that we had for you as well about the receivers. So last week it was the first round of cuts, if you will. The team had to go down to 85, or the league. Everyone had to go down to 85. So Kelvin Harmon was one of the first to go, and some fans were shocked that Kelvin Harmon was gone so quickly. Right? Thought he would at least get an opportunity to play through the rest of preseason, and that didn't shake out. Now, Steven Sims Jr. was next, kind of on the chopping block, if you will. That one kind of saw that one coming, right? So what are your thoughts on the wide receivers? How many do you think they'll keep?
Right. So that's a really good question, because now we got 10 receivers in camp. Now let me see if I can do this right. You got 3 who are absolute roster locks. No. Who am I? We were just talking about Antonio Gibson. Terry McLaurin.
Yeah, right.
Curtis Samuel. De'Ami Brown. Those are absolute locks. I think you got 2 pretty much near locks in Adam Humphries and Cam Sims. So I think that they're probably going to keep 6, maybe 7. So we're talking about 1 or 2 spots here. And I don't think, for as much as Tony Brown has shown, I don't think we're talking about him coming out of camp. So that leaves us with 4 guys. And let's see if I can get all of them. Antonio Gandy Golden, Dax Milne, the 7th round pick, DeAndre Carter, the punt returner veteran, and I'm
somebody that may not make the team because we can't remember their name.
Yeah. I wrote Isaiah Wright, the undrafted free agent.
Oh yeah, he was there last year. Oh yeah, they can.
So this is actually pretty compelling because I think all 4 of these guys have a decent shot. I would probably say, one of them, the punt returner, has got to come from this group, and so I think that's either going to be Dax Milne or DeAndre Carter. And if they only keep 6, that's the last guy on there, and then you don't keep AGG and Isaiah Wright. Though Ron Rivera has been pretty praiseworthy of AGG and his 2-point conversion last week. He had 3 catches for 38 yards, after a rocky initial outing. So to me, the question is, if they keep 6, you're only talking about DeAndre and Dax. And right now, I actually think Dax might have the upper hand there because he's been so efficient. He's got a ton of reps with the ones. He's young. I mean, they drafted him. I think that Ron really likes what he could be. I think Scott Turner really likes what he could be. So if they keep 6, that's it. And then if we're talking that 7th, I think it's between Isaiah and AGG. And I think just because this team only has one other big receiver in Cam Sims, I think that gives AGG the edge. Also, I mean, you don't want to give up on a 4th-round pick after 1 year. You want to give him an extra chance. So to me, that's how that wide receiver room shakes out. You could make arguments for DeAndre Carter and Dax Milne over the other 2 or other way around, but I think you got 5 pretty much locks, and then you got 1 or 2 spots to play with.
That one is the one that I've been watching all, preseason so far. Like, I just don't know how they're going to make the decision. Like, how they're going to figure out. Tough decision for them to make. So we'll see who shows up on preseason game 3. Now, we've gone all the way through the offense. I'm pretty much going to bucket the defense. Here's why. Because the defensive line is playing like it's week 8. And so I was like, can they just get them off the field? They're making me nervous. Like, what is happening out here? But, they're doing their thing. Right. And you made that comment earlier about Sam Cosmi going up against Chase Young and Montez Sweat. I mean, if you have to go up against anybody in practice, these are the two that you would want to have to go to battle with to make sure you are perfecting your craft. So I'm good with the defensive line. Where we're still maybe seeing some concerns and would love your insight here is on the linebacker. Still seeing some missed tackles, some misreads. Any insights in what you are sensing from the coaches is there any concern there with this linebacker group?
I think that you kind of know at this point what John Bostic is, right? I think he's that solid veteran presence. Cole Holcomb, I think he did make some nice strides last year, though, especially in coverage. I think he was a lot better in coverage than he was as a rookie. But I think the thing that people care about, the thing that interests me most is Jamin Davis's development, because Ron Rivera and Jack Del Rio, 2 linebackers, they made this their guy. I mean, at another charity event this summer, Ron was asked, who could be that Luke Kuechly type guy, that versatile linebacker who kind of captains this defense for the foreseeable future. And I thought, maybe he was thinking it'd be Cole Holcomb because he talked so, glowingly of Cole Holcomb, but he was like, nah, Jamin Davis he could be that dude for sure. And I think that it's been a little underwhelming to see him in the first couple of preseason games, just because he looks a little unsure of himself. He's taking a little bit of time to get to the ball. There was there's a back-to-back play sequence against the Bengals where on one play Cole Holcomb is hitting a hole and tackling a dude at the line of scrimmage. On the next play, Montez Sweat blows it up, so it doesn't matter. But Jamin Davis kind of is a little bit happy feet getting to the ball, and so. But at the same time, they're putting him at Mike linebacker. That's a really difficult position for anyone to learn. I mean, the NFL uses so many different formations and concepts that he has to identify and implement. So, I think we're seeing a little bit of slower progress than they would like. But at the same time, this guy has a lot of room to grow. And they say that he's doing the things that Sam Cosmi is in terms of applying the mistakes, applying the lessons that he has. So, I think this linebacker group, especially when they're in nickel, I think you're going to see more Holcomb and Bostic than you might expect, especially early in the year. But I think once he gets through those growing pains, I think Jamin Davis, at least Ron Rivera believes he'll be just fine.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Because I'm nervous, but no, I think he'll be okay. Then of course we got to talk about the defensive backs. Who is really standing out so far in preseason in the secondary for you?
Well, I mean, it's kind of – he's the highest paid player on the team. He's the second highest paid safety in the league. But Landon Collins has looked – I mean, he said he was back. And I was like, every athlete who's ever been injured says that. And then he made that hit against Cincinnati, and I was like, he might be back. But I think that I think that he is a player I'm really interested in, because if he's going to start at strong safety, you're going to have to find a place to put Cam Curl because he played so well last year. And then if you're going to put Cam Curl at free safety, what are you going to do with Bobby McCain, who I think is another valuable asset to this team? So Ron Rivera has hinted they might play 3 safeties. One of them might be in that big nickel, Buffalo nickel package they call it. But those 3 I think are really interesting. And then kind of an under-the-radar name is Torrey McTyer. He's a corner that can play wide corner. He can play inside. But they've been really impressed by his development. And I think that, you saw him start against Cincinnati when William Jackson and Kendall Fuller were out. And so I think that's a guy maybe he might be that 4th, 5th corner that if somebody gets hurt, he might get put into a pretty sizable role.
Yeah, excited to see, and definitely been watching McTire. I was like, who's that flying around the field? Okay, that guy, he's good. And so he's nice. So yes, and I've been seeing you all reporting about him as well. So definitely going to keep our eyes on him. So before we close out, who absolutely needs to have an outstanding game on Saturday against the Baltimore Ravens to secure their spot on this roster? Who do you think that is really going to come down to this game for them to make this team?
Yeah, I think, not to go back to a guy we were talking about, but AGG, Antonio Gandy Golden, I think that when you have a rocky outing like the first one, when you have a really nice outing like the second one, Ron Rivera preaches consistency more than any coach maybe I've ever been around. And when you kind of have those two games, if you come out and you have a meh game or even a poor game, then I think, coaches in that meeting room, when they're deciding this 53, I mean, that's going to come up as a strike against you. So I think he needs to have a really good game in order to kind of put himself solidly in that mix. I think Troy Apke, the converted safety at corner, I think he actually has a legitimate shot to make this team. And I think that if he had a strong game, I think that would help coaches out a lot, because he has in practice been kind of that same up and down. Today he had a really bad completion that he allowed, but then he came back and had a pick. So the more I talk to people in the building, I'm like, Troy Apke, the last year that got benched twice. I mean, they really do like what he can do at corner because of his athleticism. So I think those two guys, I would probably say, the pressure is on.
Listen, Sam, this was awesome. I told you, I warned you, I said, hey, Sam, we got a contest going on. So I'm going to post this again. I told Sam, everybody, I said, hey, listen, I know you know the answers to all of this. So help everybody out. Help them out. I said, Sam is going to be dropping gems. Seriously. In this 25, 26 minutes, he's going to be on. Sam, thank you. Thank you so much.
Course.
Absolutely appreciate you.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. Hi to moms. I hope I did okay. You did.
You're fantastic.
I hope we can do this again soon sometime.
We gotta absolutely do it again soon sometimes. I can't wait. The season is just about here. So we will definitely do this again. So everyone, thanks so much for tuning in. This is Sam Fortier from the Washington Post, Washington football team reporter. Make sure you all are following him on Twitter. Get all the updates all during practice. So thank you again, Sam. And thank you all for watching. I'll see you all again soon.